In this episode of Film Stock Reviews, I'm reviewing episode 1 of 1883, titled 1883. 1883 is a spin-off of the show Yellowstone, which is created by Taylor Sheridan, and this show is telling the story about the previous generation of the Dutton family, where they go from a journey from Texas to Montana, where they eventually establish the Yellowstone Ranch. It stars Sam Elliott, Tim McGraw, and Faith Hill. Now, the episode is started off with Elsa Dutton, James Dutton's daughter, in this, and we find that she's laying down, and she's the one narrating this entire series. I just want to get that out of the way. And she's narrating it, and we find her that she's being attacked by the Indians and the Native Americans, so to speak. And then something happens. She gets shot with a bow and arrow, and then it cuts to a different scene. We are then introduced to Sam Elliott's character of Shea. He's an agent and a guide, and he's sitting on his front porch. He's distraught, and he's just emotional. And it's a very powerful, emotional opening to such a series that it's crazy. And goes inside to a room, and we see that there's a young girl laying on the bed with blisters all over her body, and it's smallpox. He carries the girl, which evidently is his daughter, upstairs next to the mother, his wife, and she also has smallpox. So they both die from the smallpox disease, and then in order to get rid of this disease, he burns the house down with the bodies inside. So then the next scene, we see him with a gun to his chin, just wanting to end everything. And as he's sitting in the field with this gun to his chin, we are introduced to Thomas, a deputy and a detective with the Pinkerton, agency that is a friend of Shea, and they go off and, they just start riding. And then we're introduced to Tim McGraw's character of James Dutton, who's trying to not get robbed by these robbers, evidently on horseback. So he shoots them down, kills them, and, everything happens, and then the show starts. And then he goes into the town of Fort Worth, Texas. And, he's just looking around, standing around, trying to just do his own thing. And he's pickpocketed right on the street, Tim McGraw's character of James Dutton. And then he shoots the pickpocketer right in the street. It's an insane scene, and it's a great way to introduce this character for this entire series. And then he goes to the pickpocketer, he takes his wallet. This whole town starts beating the shit out of the pickpocketer, and they hang him for what he did right out in the open. No remorse, nothing. So it cuts back to Shea, Sam Elliott, and his partner Thomas, and they're just like, man, he's gonna, try and survive out here. It's gonna be hard to do. So while all that's happening, we find that Shea Brennan's character is going to help these immigrants, these German immigrants, across country to the West. And, they don't have a horse, they don't have, certain things to keep alive. And he's telling them what's going to happen to them if they don't follow his orders. So they do everything, and, he's like, one of the German immigrants who only speaks English is like, we'll be ready by tomorrow morning. And Sam Elliott's character is like, no, you won't be ready by tomorrow morning. So then that goes to, we are introduced to the character of Elsa Dutton, the daughter to James Dutton. And then we're introduced to Faith Hill's character of Margaret Dutton, the wife to James Dutton. The way we're introduced to her is phenomenal, and it's hilarious. And they're on this train and a trip to meet James Dutton in Fort Worth, Texas. And there is a character of Claire and her daughter. And Claire is James Dutton's sister, who's foul-mouthed-witted and only thinks that certain things are done certain ways. It's an annoying character, but it's interestingly done. So they make it to Fort Worth, Texas, and then, they settle in with everything, and they settle in their hotel room. And then during the night, this drunk man goes into the wrong room and almost tries to rape Elsa. And then James Dutton just shoots him in the back of the head. Character's so in your face and forceful that it's crazy. And if you didn't know, James Dutton, the character Tim McGraw plays, he is the great-grandfather to John Dutton from Yellowstone, the character that Kevin Costner plays. All while this is happening, Shea and Thomas find and ask James to help them on this journey cross-country. And, Tim McGraw's character of James says, I'm not into this, it's just me and my family, we can do our own thing. So Shea goes on his own way and everything. He just does certain things. And the next scene, we find that, he comes in and James Dutton's like, okay, I'll help you go across. So it's interesting to see how this episode started and how everything is happening, so forth. It's an in-your-face series, I want to say, and seeing it take place in 1883 and 1800s or the 1880s, and seeing this show take place in the 1880s is really, really good. Taylor Sheridan created a great universe with cowboys, and he directed and wrote this first episode. And I do want to say that it's very interesting because Sam Elliott as Shea Brennan is so good that once Sam Elliott's character came on screen, I was like, just give him the Emmy, give him the Golden Globe for this role right now. And I feel like it's really interesting because Tim McGraw is not really not well known as a good actor, but he really stuck his tone in this with how he was introduced. He's tough as nails. He doesn't give a shit. And being that he's the great grandfather to John Dutton, it's really fun and insane to see. I love how the writing is in this show. It's rough, it's tough, it's gritty, and Isabel May as Elsa Dutton is really good as an actress. She narrates this series and the story about her father, her family, going on this journey out west and, settling in Montana, if that's, because they go from Texas to Montana. And so Isabel May is really good as an actress. She's a very beautiful, beautiful woman. And I'm curious to see how she progresses as a character in this series. And I'm curious to see how everything else happens, because we do get flashbacks during the season 4 of Yellowstone of the great grandfather, the family, and doing certain things here and there, and you do get confused once in a while about what's happening. Then it goes to the present day with John. So it's really interesting how this show is done, but it's really good, and I have to say the acting is fantastic and phenomenal, and it's so good. And this premiered on Paramount Plus on December 19th, 2021 with a 2-episode premiere. So in my next episode, I'm going to review episode 2 of 1883 titled Behind Us, Cliff. So be sure you tune into that, and I'll see you guys in my next review video.